All right, before I talk about narcissism, which by the way is going to be my first topic with this whole texting, snackable self-help, I don't know what to call it. If you don't know, I'm texting daily, 5 days a week, an actual program. So there's going to be not only reminders and quotes, but also an exercise, maybe an exclusive video, but there's going to be a topic every week, and then I'm gonna talk about that topic through text, so it'll be delivered into your phone. But anyway, narcissism is going to be the first topic because it's something that, I think, in the world that we live in, by the way, I have notes here, so excuse me if I'm not looking into the camera. In the world that we live in these days, I think that word narcissism is thrown around a lot. And I think it's partly due to our selfie driven world. And as I say that, I'm looking at my hair, trying to fix and look, speaking of narcissism. Plus, I think also our swipe culture, we've turned people into salad dressing, and we can choose different flavors hiding behind our phones. And so I really believe that today more than ever, we are impatient and we are disconnected, and technology has given us a throne and a magic mirror that is rechargeable. So because of these things and the way that they are wiring our brain, I think a lot of people can have narcissistic tendencies, right? Probably me included, right? As a quote unquote influencer or someone who is producing content and all that, there's a lot of look at me, right? And there's a lot of, counting followers and all of that stuff. So I think part of that is cultural, but because of that wave, especially in the last 5 years, it's easy to call someone a narcissist. But a narcissist, a true narcissist, meaning a narcissistic personality disorder, right? That is different. So I want to read you something. So in the American Psychiatric Association's diagnostic the DSM-5, okay? NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is defined as compromising a persuasive pattern of grandiosity, right, in fantasy or in behavior, a consistent need for admiration, and a lack of empathy, beginning in early adulthood to the present. And they say that because if you think about it, every teenager is narcissistic, right? When I tell you what it takes to have a adult personality, narcissistic personality disorder, and I say adult because I think every teenager is, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So this is an adult personality disorder, and you have to possess 5 of these 9 traits. Okay, so 1, grandiose sense of self, sense of importance, preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, a belief that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. A need for excessive admiration, a sense of entitlement, interpersonally exploitive behavior, a lack of empathy, that one's huge, envy of others or belief that others are envious of him or her, and a demonstration of arrogant and basically a demonstration of arrogant behavior. Now, you have to have 5 of those 9 traits. You have to possess those traits, and they have to be consistent. You can't just have a friend who over the weekend, because it's her birthday, decides to make it about her, and then suddenly she's a narcissist, right? There's a spectrum, right? There's your anything from your tap dancing cousin to the 90s Axl Rose, right? There's a spectrum of narcissism. But most people that we call narcissists aren't clinically diagnosed with personality disorder, right? With a narcissistic personality disorder. We just call them narcissists because they have those tendencies. That being said, narcissistic tendencies, as long as they're consistent, can also be extremely damaging. So now let's talk about if you are sleeping with if you are with a narcissist, and how you will know that. Okay, so I also want to say that we are attracted to narcissists because narcissists are charming, and narcissists who people who have narcissistic tendencies can be outgoing and extroverted, and at parties be very entertaining, because they're making it about them, and they're always grabbing the spotlight, and so there's a reason why we are attracted to this type of personality, right? It could also appear as confidence when it's actually really insecurity, right? So I want to bring it down to kind of like street level, right? I gotta stop saying right. I say that so much; it's a bad habit. Here are 5 narcissistic tendencies to look for, and again, they have to be consistent. They can't just be things that you notice in someone once in a while, because if that's the case, then we are all narcissistic. Number 1, they don't hear you, right? They only hear themselves, so they're not really listening to what you're saying, and they're every argument is about them trying to get you to see the world through their eyes. They leave very little room for trying to understand you. So although it looks like they're listening, they don't hear you, okay? If that's a pattern. 2, they can't take criticism. So everything you say to them, they take very personally. They can't separate sense of self from the criticism and want to improve and be better. Instead, they're completely defensive, and they throw it back at your face. Rules don't apply to them, right? They're special. They're never wrong. And this is a big one, because if you never believe that you're wrong, there's no room for growth. And the 5th one I'm going to say is, and it kind of piggybacks off never being wrong, they don't take ownership. You know what? I'm going to add one more, and that is going to be they don't practice empathy. But before I get to that, they don't take ownership. Now, if you have someone who doesn't take ownership, there's no way to grow. Like, the process of growing is to own something, is to realize that you have hurt someone, or have done something wrong, or made a mistake, right? And in that, owning that is how you evolve and expand and grow, and you learn from your lessons, and you want to be a better person. Now, if you have someone who is never taking ownership, then they are only blaming. So if someone doesn't own, they're going to be pointing fingers, right? And usually that finger is going to be pointed at the person that they are in a relationship with. So if you are that person, then that can eventually be abusive, because it's so lopsided. And also many people, they're going to internalize this, right? So if you're with someone who have consistently been practicing or have these traits, and they're consistently this way, this is how they show up in the world and in their relationships, then it's going to be very hard for you to not internalize that and think something's wrong with you, or that you are defective. And this is where relationships can get abusive. So I'm going to say 6 traits, not 5, how you know that someone can possibly be a narcissist or have narcissistic tendencies, and they might be impacting you and your self-worth, or them / the relationship. They don't hear you. They can't take criticism. Rules don't apply to them. They're never wrong. They don't take ownership. And finally, they don't have the ability to practice empathy. They can't come with you. Instead, they're coming at you, right? So if you're not empathetic, if you don't have the ability to practice empathy, it's really impossible to produce trust and an authentic connection and a healthy love.